Hello friends, myself Dr. Deepak Auli, Department of Chemistry, Gopal Krishna Gokhale College, Kolhapur. First of all, let me congratulate and welcome for choosing the BSc degree course, and again secondly I want to welcome in the Department of Chemistry. So in this year we are going to deal with semester 1 and semester 2. So in semester 1 two papers are there, so we are going to discuss some topics from paper number 2, and that is nothing but the organic chemistry. So the first topic that I am going to deal with you is the fundamentals of organic chemistry. This is the title of this topic, fundamentals of organic chemistry. So why this topic is important and what is the scope of this topic in chemistry? So as far as the organic chemistry is considered, we should know some basic points very firmly. Already we have discussed the basic parts or the basic concepts in organic chemistry in the lower classes, that is 11th and 12th. Actually these points have been discussed in lower classes in more details. So again we are going to just repeat these basic concepts which are important in organic chemistry. So the syllabus of this topic includes, or the content of this topic is the introduction of this topic. Then second one is the arrow notations, different types of arrows we present while writing the reactions, different organic reactions. Third point, cleavage of bonds. So the bonds, different types of bonds are there, and in this point we are going to discuss how these bonds are cleaved and what are the different species that are formed after cleavage of the bond. The next point is organic molecular species. So in this organic molecular species, the intention is there are positively charged species and negatively charged species. So the positively charged species obviously will get attracted towards the negatively charged species and vice versa. So we are going to discuss the positively charged species and negatively charged species under this point, organic molecular species. The next point is electronic displacement. So as we see the chemical reactions, any chemical reaction, some bonds are breaking and some new bonds are forming. So whenever there is bond breaking, means there must be a shifting of the electrons from one atom to the another atom. So this is in another words called as electronic displacement. So electronic displacement may occur in different ways. So under this point we are going to discuss different types of electronic displacements which are specifically named, for example inductive effect, electromeric effect, hyperconjugation effect, etc. So these are the points that we are going to cover under this point, electronic displacement. And the last one that we are going to discuss under this topic is the reactive intermediates. So reactive intermediates, what are these reactive intermediates? So we know the general chemical reaction, it can be represented as A reacts with B and it gives products C and D. So A and B are the reactants here and products C and D are formed in that particular reaction. So A plus B, that gives C plus D. So AB are the reactants, C and D are the products. So this is, we can represent the chemical reaction in simple way, but actually when reaction proceeds in laboratory, this is not the path followed by the reactants to form the products. Means A is reacted with B and immediately or after some time we get product C and D. So the chemical reactions are not so simply proceeds. So in between the reactants and products, some other species are also formed. So these other species are called as reactive intermediates. So let me clear this point again. For example, A and B, as we are supposing these are the reactants, A reacts with B, then there will be formation of some intermediate species. So for example, suppose X is the intermediate species. So A plus B, first it will give X intermediate compound, and that X will get finally converted into the products C and D. So in this case, X is the intermediate. So every organic reaction proceeds with formation of some sort of intermediates. So which are those intermediates, how they are formed, what is the structure of these intermediates, and what is the role of these intermediates, what is the stability of these intermediates, that we are going to cover under this point, that is reactive intermediates. So as we are going to discuss this topic, fundamentals of organic chemistry. So under introduction, we are going to discuss the mechanism of the reaction, types of intermediates. Means by considering the basics of reactions, we can explain, we can be able to give the mechanism of reaction. Secondly, we can say about the types of intermediates that are involved in any organic reaction. Next, the kinetics of the reaction can also be studied when we know the basics of the organic chemistry. So information about the energy of activation can be obtained by discussing or by understanding the basics of organic chemistry. Further, the stereochemistry of the reaction can be understood by considering the basics of reaction. So basics of or fundamentals of organic reactions plays the important role to know the mechanism of reaction. So what is mechanism? The path followed by or the route followed by the reactants to form the products is nothing but the mechanism of the reaction. Second, types of intermediates. Which type of intermediate is involved in that reaction, that can be understood by considering the basic or the fundamental part of the organic chemistry. Kinetics means what? Already every reaction has some sort of order or molecularity. So that order of the reaction can be studied under the kinetic part of that reaction. For example, what is the time required for the completion of reaction? That can be decided by studying its chemical kinetics. The chemical kinetics of reaction, that will give us the time, that is time required for its completion, what should be the concentration of the reactants, at what temperature we have to carry out the reaction so as to it should get completed within a short time. So all this information that is possible only we know only when if we know the fundamentals of the organic reactions. So this is the overall scope of this topic. So by knowing or by studying this topic, fundamentals of organic chemistry, we can come to know all these important points. Now let's see, the first point of this topic is arrow notations. So as we have mentioned earlier, in organic chemistry or in organic reactions, we represent or we draw different types of arrows. So this is the first type of arrow. So it is called as curved arrows. So this is the straight arrow and this one is the curved arrow. Now in the second example, in this example, these are the curved arrows. So first, curved arrows, curved means they should be curved in shape. So curved arrows are of two types. The first one is a double headed curved arrow and next one is a single headed curved arrow. So double headed curved arrow, what is its significance? Double headed curved arrow shows the movement of an electron pair. So that is important. Electron pair is totally shifted from one atom to the another atom. That, and that double-headed curved arrow should start at the tail and end up at the head of the atom towards which it is shifting. Now let's consider this example. So here the lone pair of electrons or electron pair which is present on this oxygen is shifted towards this H plus. So this is shown by double-headed arrow, and the significance of this is that both electrons or pair of electrons are shifting towards H plus ion, and here there is formation of this product. Sorry, let me zoom this. Now this shifting take a pair of electrons from the tail and move them to the head. So here this pair of electron is shifting towards H plus and there is formation of this H2. Now let's see single-headed curved arrow. So what is the significance of this single-headed curved arrow? So single-headed curved arrow indicates the bond pair of electrons are equally distributed. So this Br-Br bond is formed by two electrons. So while breaking this Br-Br bond, both the two shared electrons or two electrons will get distributed equally. So each bromine retains one electron. So two bromine atoms retains two electrons each. So take a single electron from the tail and move it to the head. So what this curved arrow, single-headed curved arrow indicates that one electron from these two electrons will be shifted towards this bromine and the another electron will be shifted towards this bromine, and there will be formation of this there is formation of these two Br free radicals. Okay, now let's move to the another slide. The second type of arrow is forward arrow. So forward arrow, this is the forward arrow. Actually these are not the part of your syllabus, but only curved arrows are there. Significance of curved arrows is included in your syllabus, but you should know what is this different types of arrows. For that, just within a few minutes I would like to explain different types of arrows. So this is the second forward arrow. This is shown here. Forward arrow that indicates the general purpose. Let me zoom this. Now forward arrow general purpose shows action. So this this is the reactant. It get converted into this product. So this is reactant and this one is product. So this reaction is moving in forward direction. So it is denoted by this forward arrow. Now this third type of arrow is a resonance arrows. So this is a resonance arrow. Now this resonance arrow means these are the two resonating structures for this compound, and they are isomers of each other. Therefore these are represented by this resonance arrow. Now the next one is dashed reaction arrows. So dashed reaction arrow is shown here in this way. So what is the significance of this dashed reaction arrow? It shows a theoretical step. Practically it may be possible or may not be, but if you want to represent a theoretical reaction, then we can represent a theoretical reaction by using this dashed reaction arrows. The next one is equilibrium arrows. Now you are familiar with these types of arrows. So these arrows, if you look at these arrows, so single headed straight arrow in which is directed in forward direction, and at the same time another single half-headed arrow in reverse direction. So this indicates this reaction is equilibrium reaction, and this arrow is called as equilibrium arrow. Means these are the reactants and these are the products, they are in equilibrium with each other. So equilibrium, if it proceeds or if it favors in forward direction, that means, now let's consider this example, this reaction. In this reaction, this reactant is converted into this. So or this reaction chemical compound is also converted into this. So at equilibrium, which product will be in higher percentage? So here the arrows are represented in this way. In this, the forward arrow is shown with a higher length, that indicates that this reactant is converted into the product, means the reaction, reversible reaction, this is actually reversible reaction, but the equilibrium strongly favors products. So this arrow, which is in higher length, shows the reactant or the reaction is favored in forward direction. Now let's consider this reaction in which the length of reverse half-headed arrow is higher as compared to the next one. So this arrow indicates that the product is, or the reverse reaction is favored, means this product will be converted into the reactant, and this reverse step will be favored, or reversible reaction is occurring in backward direction. So in this reaction we will obtain the reactant in higher percentage. So these are the equilibrium arrows. Now let's consider the another type of arrows, broken arrows. So these are represented in this way. So what does it indicate? Broken arrow. Broken arrow shows an unsuccessful reaction. The reaction will not occur. So this is the meaning of these types of arrows, called as broken arrows. The next type of arrow is called as a retrosynthetic arrow. So this is the example of a retrosynthetic reaction. Now this is the reactant, this is the target molecule. In retrosynthesis it is called as target molecule, and target molecule means we want to prepare this molecule. Suppose I have if I want to prepare particular molecule, I know its structure. So what path, what route should be followed, and what sort of reactants I should use to prepare this target molecule. So once I know the target structure of target molecule, I can break the bonds of this target molecule so as to get the reactants, corresponding reactants. So these are the reactants I can obtain or I can use to prepare this target molecule or desired molecule. Now this arrow is called as a retrosynthetic arrow. Means starting from the target molecule or the structure of desired molecule, we can go on fragmenting this target molecule so as to arrive at the fragments that are called as reactants, or they are, in another words, they are called as synthons. So forget about all these retrosynthetic reactions or the terms that are used, target molecule and synthons, all these things. Just remember, this is the arrow. When we represent the arrow in this way, then that indicates the retrosynthetic arrow. Now the next point is cleavage of bonds. As we know, bond is nothing but the combination of two electrons. So now these two electrons may come from one atom, or they may come from two atoms by equal sharing. So bond means two electrons. Now how this bond breaks? Chemical reactions always proceeds with bond breaking and bond making. This is, we are familiar with this statement. Any chemical reaction always proceeds with bond breaking and bond making. Some old bonds get broken and some new bonds are formed. Now it leads to electronic distribution. When bond breaks, there is rearrangement of electrons or redistribution of electrons, and we can obtain the new bond or the new compound, new structure. So bond breaks in two ways. Now any bond which is present in between two atoms can break in two ways. The first way is homolytic cleavage. Second way is called as heterolytic cleavage. Homolytic cleavage means equal distribution of electrons, whereas heterolytic cleavage means unequal distribution of electrons. Now let's see the general reaction of homolytic cleavage, this one. Now there is bond between A and B. So this bond breaks homolytically, means these two electrons which are present in between A and B, after cleavage, each A and B atom retains one electron, which are shown here. A carries one electron, so this B carries one electron, and these species are nothing but the intermediates, and these intermediates are specifically called as free radicals. So the free radicals carries odd number of electrons. Free radicals are the species or the intermediates which carries odd number of electrons, and free radicals are obtained by homolytic cleavage of the covalent bond. So this is about the homolytic cleavage. Now second one is heterolytic cleavage. Heterolytic cleavage, as I told you, unequal distribution of electrons. There is bond between A and B, but here both the electrons which are present in between A and B may get shifted towards A. So A will acquire negative charge, B will acquire positive charge, and the species in which carbon carries a negative charge is called as carbanion. The species in which carbon carries positive charge is called as carbocation. So this bond may break in another way, which is shown in this reaction. So here both the bonded electrons may get shifted towards B. As a result, B will acquire negative charge, A will have positive charge. Positively charged carbon species is called as carbocation, and negatively charged species in which carbon carries negative charge is called as carbanium, as I told earlier. So this is about the two ways of cleavage of the bonds, homolytic cleavage and heterolytic cleavage. Now let's see the another point, organic molecular species. So what are the different species, organic molecular species, which are formed when a particular chemical reaction occurs? Now let's see the general reaction, chemical reaction. S plus R, it gives P. So what is this S? S stands for substrate, R stands for reagent, and P stands for product. So why S means substrate, R means reagent, P product. Now what is this substrate? The question is, what is this substrate? Substrate is the compound on which reaction is to be carried out. Substrate is the compound with which chemical transformation is to be brought about. We are going to convert this S into product P. So the compound which undergo chemical transformation is called as a substrate, and the compound which is responsible to bring out this chemical transformation is called as reagent. So this is reagent which brings about chemical transformation with this substrate, and we are getting here this product. So this reagent is of two types. Reagents are of two types. First one is electrophile and second one is nucleophile. So electrophile, these are the positively charged species as well as neutral species. So electrophiles, literally it means affection towards electrons. As these electrophiles have the affection towards electrons, they must have positive charge, they must carry positive charge, they must be electron deficient. So remember this, electrophiles are electron deficient and hence they have the affection or the attraction towards electrons which are negatively charged. The second type of reagent is called as nucleophile. They have affection towards nucleus. So what should be the charge on these nucleophiles? So here the answer lies at this point. As nucleophiles have the affection towards nucleus, they must carry negative charge or they must be neutral, but they must have the electrons or electron rich species. So affection, nucleophiles have the affection towards nucleus. So what is the charge on nucleus? And for that we should know the nucleonic particles which are present in the nucleus. In nucleus, as we know, protons and neutrons are there. Protons are positively charged and neutrons are neutral in nature. So overall charge on the nucleus is positive. Since as nucleus have positive charge, the nucleophile must have the negative charge, because nucleophiles have the attraction towards nucleus which are positively charged. That means nucleophile must carry negative charge. So these are the two reagents, electrophiles and nucleophiles. Further, these electrophiles are of two types, positive electrophiles and neutral electrophiles. Positive electrophiles, first of all we have mentioned electrophiles are electron deficient species. So they may be positively charged or they may be neutral. So these are the examples of positively charged electrophiles, and these H plus, NO2 plus, etc. And neutral electrophiles AlCl3, BF3, these are the neutral electrophiles. Now let's see the nucleophiles. These nucleophiles are again of two types, negative nucleophiles and neutral nucleophiles. Negative means they should carry negative charge, OH minus, Cl minus, Br minus, I minus, etc. Neutral nucleophiles, they don't have the charge, negative charge, but they are electron rich species. For example, H2O, NH3. So in H2O, oxygen carries two lone pairs of electrons. Means H2O is electron rich, oxygen is electron rich, it carries two lone pairs of electrons. In NH3, nitrogen carries one lone pair of electron. So again it is electron rich species, means it can act as a nucleophile. So these are the electrophiles and nucleophiles are the reagents which brings about the chemical transformation of this substrate to get the desired product. So these are the organic molecular species. Electrophiles and nucleophiles are the organic molecular species. So these are the important species which are responsible to bring out the desired chemical change with the substrate to get the expected product. So this is the first part of the topic fundamentals of organic reaction. If you have any question or queries, you can ask me anytime. Your suggestions as well as your queries or your questions are always welcome, and I will try to solve, I will try to answer your questions. Thank you very much.